With all that shit being said, let me elucidate upon my opinion while also playing some hands of Delatro. Here's how I see the situation in totality and in full, as I've repeated multiple times on multiple stream segments of Carl at Home. For those that have either A, never seen my streams before, never paid attention to the content before, are new joiners and watchers that have dipped in because they didn't realize, oh wait, that black guy that streams with Jay has a channel of his own, or people who have been actively watching shit, specifically in the context of having seen me live on Twitter, seeing my posts on Twitter, who have no idea what the fuck is going on and what I'm talking about. Here's how it works out. Mick Dizzle, and I guess by association, because apparently he was involved too, Sid Alpha, have a hate boner. Specifically, a specific crash out hate boner concern about Smash JT. Smash JT is a content creator who's been making videos effectively to the degree of attempting to get involved with and make a claim and stake for work that involves and is around the idea of making content featuring the culture war. Not always, but more than enough. That work has been slow coming, but if we go by the timeline of all of the months of time he's spent thus far doing all of his coverage in the forms of videos, in the forms of live streams, one of which I'm expecting is going to be privated. For that context, look at the last video posted before this one, and other such things like his reporting from his channel that basically amounts to, I am going to be an asshole to every single person in every way possible. Wait, what the fuck did they say fuck me for? Every time he makes some type of content, it is basically the most debased clickbait, journalistic report that you could consider and compare it to. The journalism, in some cases, such as examples as the Corrine Bush story, being that as he constantly kept covering Corrine Bush being out at BioWare at Edmonton before joining a team to work on, I believe it was Baldur's Gate 4, it and all the knowledge and work around it amounted to, here's things that we already know. Now watch as I consistently dog this person's gender and call them fucked up things with subtext images and constantly trans shame them for having gone through feminization surgery by putting before and after pictures of their anatomy and their face on screen as I talk shit about them. My keyboard is dirty. It also includes really non-existent news story reports concerning examples like Black Myth Wukong, and the news stories that were cut by Rebecca Valentine of, I believe, Kotaku, if not just of Giant Bomb, and their need to try and burn down that studio, the ones responsible for Black Myth Wukong, in favor of trying to look for a way to push the story. But then, when it came to his actual gameplay coverage, he was more interested in the drama than he was actually posting content of the video game. Because as I've demonstrated on Twitter multiple times, and anyone listening to this can be able to demonstrate for themselves, you can simply look up his Steam page and see that he does not play nearly any enough of what I would consider to be enough time for an influencer to consider themselves doing the work when it comes to his involvements with his content. At the end of the day, it is definitely in the category of not nearly fucking enough. What does that mean? What am I saying? What I'm effectively saying is the kind of thing that you would have expected when you think of game journalist, when you think of the content creators that no longer are with us, like Total Biscuit, or the esports reporting that you'd expect of Dustin Thorne Shields, Richard Lewis, Monte Crisco, I Will Dominate, of Last Free Nation. That is not the kind of game journalists we're talking about. We're of course talking about the media blogger, cottagecore era of game journalist that is propagandistically and also streamer and content creator access the post to the legacy media, akin to being legacy game journalism. This is where the story of Listen Mercante being against Smash State T would come from, but ultimately we're looking at this focus and mind down of the news story. Just to give a bit of context for those who have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. Smash JT would go on to make reports. And these reports in question basically amounted to taking tips, anonymous tips, sent to his business email for the purposes of, I guess you could say, finding tips. Well, what a slam. Finding tips of work that he is doing or looking into. What the fuck is happening? Really? That's crazy. But anyways, looking into details and stories of things that effectively amount to, I heard from a friend of a friend that they're doing such and such and such, involving, I believe it was Ubisoft. I can check this in real time. Because this stream just ended, I'm going to see if it's going to be deleted soon. But one was for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is Ubisoft, and another one was for Corinne Bush for double checking, BioWare. And basically, it was revealed that not once but twice, he fell for the bait. And effectively, no, he was not talking to an insider. He was actually talking to a random person who was trolling him, and the other being McDizzle Gaming. McDizzle choosing to do so he could just simply make fun of the man and embarrass him for what he was doing. Excuse me one second, I'm making sure I get a VOD of this. And the general drama of this story amounts to pretty much the back and forth, because there are multiple versions of this, but I'm going to give you the shortest version possible here for the purposes of conversation. The shortest version possible: he's been reporting things uncritically without giving his own summaries of the things he's supposed to be looking into. He finally gets caught on a rake, not once but twice, because McDizzle reveals that he was the leaker in question, as he was doing none of the work to vet his sources and the resources he was doing. People who are against him, such as the person who is suing him, would go on and demonstrate that he's not doing his job. This is not what media journalists do. You need to do a lot more rigorous work and a lot more investigation of the things you want to get involved in. You should never be easily bought over like this or convinced like this. You need to do a lot more work. You need to be a lot more understanding, and you need to just simply figure out how to do the job without basically demonstrating that you're only in it for the money. As I said in my video before this, my opinion is that currently at this time, from how much I have watched this develop, and when I say this, I don't just mean the situation. I mean the way that he covers content on his channel, the way that he communicates, the way that he doesn't communicate, the way that not only himself, but also McDizzle are incapable of taking accountability for their actions and admitting that they did the wrong fucking thing. Smash JT should be vetting his sources, yes, but McDizzle should also not be stealing a person's employee status and faking being that person to try and do this entire gamble, since this has now resulted in a cease and desist being served to not only McDizzle but also now Smash JT because of the supposed leaking that he did or did not have the ability to confirm, which amounts to salacious and torturous interference of contracts and of defamation and slander, since this was in published libel that he presented on his channel. This back and forth has essentially been: he's told he needs to change. He doesn't. He does the shit again. He gets caught again. He gets told he needs to change. He says explicitly, live on air, when he gets confronted by of Colt Cassie Cage, one of the panelists of Saturday Night Hypnotic, which is a podcast-style talk show that is hosted by Hypnotic One, I believe it's called Hypnotic One. Yeah, just Hypnotic, plain. The YouTuber Hypnotic on his own channel. Another media figure that, at the very least, in terms of the other people who I'm going to use the word of media influencer hobbyist, at least manages his time, actively does a regular talking show for entertainment, media, news, and gaming that he chooses to cover with an upload schedule that remains consistent. He gets confronted on there and pretty much says explicitly, with as best of the words that he could, that literally he is not going to change his behavior. He's going to keep doing the same shit he's going to do, which means he's going to get caught on the same wreck again, and it's going to happen again, and he's not going to learn from the consequences of it, and he's not going to absorb anything about it. Which effectively amounts to, he does not care, you're not going to make me change my behavior, nya. Which is bad enough to begin with anyways. But I digress. This now progresses us to the video that I just cut, and now the breakdown that I'm going to give. I'm going to give my opinion here in more full detail than I did before. I've spoken to death about what he should do, right? But here's the simple fact of the matter. The way that I see things as they've developed ever since the Goober Gay began in 2014 when I was in college, where we've gotten to now, you literally have nothing but non-stop grifting from the left, the right, the dentist setter, and more. There are literally grifters on every single side of the goddamn issue and involved in every single cycle of the content that we're covering. They do not take accountability whatsoever. Not the left, not the right. There are very few people who do take accountability, and that's because most of us are just on our fucking JOB hustling and grinding. I know I am, I know Jay is, I know other content creators like Mahler is. Most of them, if they're not working on regular streams and also putting out hard effort work videos, they're doing live streams where they're covering whatever they want to cover, whatever their audiences ask them to cover as a part of them doing their work. I would say when it comes to me in that zeitgeist, I'm just a regular degular nigga, just making regular degular content and doing my regular degular thing. Doesn't mean that it's always the best, doesn't mean that the things that I want to talk about are the same things that may be happening in the zeitgeist, but I do my shit. I make what I like to watch, and I try to create edutainment at best. Sometimes salt sniping is great, getting on top of topics that I like and care about is cool, but most of the time, if I try to do something that's relevant, I try to keep it decent and I try to put it in my own words as best as I possibly can. I've improved a lot within the last, I would say, year and a half, for reasons that are not the scope of this video. But ever since the Goober Gay began, and ever since Goober Gay 2 Electric Trunaloo has begun, words I'm not going to repeat again, you have seen a spurg out of DEI/woke fundamentalist surges of content. Either people being anti-woke, or people being very woke. Ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, make your content. But if we're talking straight cash money, the people that call themselves dark woke, or the people who call themselves anti-woke, they are two sides of the same coin. They're all annoying, and I do not like them, and I don't want to be in the same space and room with them. I don't want them anywhere near my hobbies. I don't want them anywhere near my businesses. I dislike how very little musculature they have. I dislike how we've not gatekept enough to keep both the contingency and the infection out. So now we have to deal with both the pathogen and people who are selling snake oil to people to trick them into giving them money because they are all about ego and not about how you solve problems. No matter how many ways we look at it and go about it, you cannot get out of it, and we can't get away from it. And the amount of time that we've spent from pretty much anywhere in trying to do anything we can to get people on the same page has just been honestly very irritating. No matter how we try to solve the problem as best as we possibly can. like in our particular niches and spaces where we choose to do things. What I'm noticing in like the realist problems is that we keep finding ourselves being led by the nose by people that effectively not only have the worst intentions, but are just doing it specifically to rake in money. Because they've learned that they don't actually have to do hard work. It's fast money, it's easy money. They can grift and get cash, inject themselves in the conversation, get in, get out, extract value, extract wealth, and effectively say, ha 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 ha, I've already got mine, I'm up one. We've seen this happen with Mark Kern. We've seen this happen a little bit with Recruiters Rambo, but he is no longer a factor in this conversation. We've seen this happen with Smash JT. You could say that you've seen this happen with a bunch of influencers that originated from Twitter and TikTok, but ultimately, as long as people are entertaining people, whether or not I like the way that they do stuff shouldn't be a material concern to me. But the material concern that I have in this situation concerning Smash JT is that his behavior is a reflectant problem that gets used as a tool to club all of us that effectively are watching him do this, and we aren't taking it upon ourselves to do better. And because we're not taking it upon ourselves to do better, we are always going to be criticized by a group of people that will never let us set the terms of how we are described and how we are covered. In the terms of Alyssa Mercante, as far as they're concerned, the eponymous they here are those that call themselves dark woke. So that means Alyssa Mercante, that means Rebecca Valentine, that means Nick Calandra of Second Wind, that means the current hosts of Kinda Funny, that means any of the media cottagecore journalists that would support such a structure, and most definitely individuals like Paul Tassi. They look over the sidelines and they look at people like John De La Rose and John F. Trent of Fandom Pulse. They look over at people like Moni Mac. They look over at people like Smash JT, and they look over at all of us as being in the same sphere. And they effectively say, look, they don't even care about how they police their own. They're out here saying journalists are bad, journalists are bad, and then they've just become media journalists themselves. The accusation being, they're not vetting stories, they're not talking about anything that is necessarily important to the subject matter at hand. They only care about the drama, they don't care about the actual business of the games, and they don't even address themselves, and they're not held accountable for lying. They're just going to keep grifting, keep lying, blah, 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 blah. This thing gets used as a tool to club all of us, because as a evil Carl in his own timeline, suffering from coming on a real one, once said, you just want to use these things as a cudgel. They use this to club all of us over the head like baby seals. Meanwhile, we end up having to police ourselves, or even tone police ourselves, not because we're trying to gatekeep everybody and control the optics and control the narrative and harmonize the opinions, but specifically, I don't want it near me. I don't fucking care for it. That's cool that that's his standard. I have a bigger standard. I have a better standard than this. You ain't finna catch me in no dragnet, because I actually investigate and do the work. And I have people around me that would not let me be lazy, that will keep me involved doing the work. Because this is how it's developed and how it's become, we are now in a zeitgeist where this kind of coverage and this kind of conversation has an actual detriment to the actual hobbyists, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the person who's most affected is the individual. That means the consumer. If you cannot trust effectively, from his origins, a video game hobbyist, self-proclaimed beta tester, to do his job and to cover the content that they claim they want to cover, Exactly as I predicted. What you end up covering and what you end up looking through directly affects everything you do and everyone that's doing the same thing as you. So, concerning Smash JT, I'm typing this for the other video. It has reached to a point where the most visible example of I'm going to be nice, because this is a video on YouTube, the most visual example of what can be called an unironic grifter is being used against us to label and stamp all of us in the head like we ain't got no damn sense. We are being forced to effectively deal with the consequences that happen when an individual is unwilling to be held accountable for the things that he has to deal with and says, it's not my fault, it's not my problem, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it, not realizing that that attitude is the reason why we keep finding ourselves where we are and why we cannot get out of the damn building. I, for one, would like to be able to have fun and not be permanently held to a journalistic standard that remains uncovered, unfetched, and unbroken, and unresponsive because one individual believes himself above responsibilities and pretty much common fucking sense. But that is where we find ourselves. That is effectively the situation as a whole. Smash JT refuses to change his behavior. People such as Sid Alpha and McDizzle will probably keep trying to do gay op like bullshit to try and quote catch them, and everybody in the middle is going to be like, bro, what the fuck? Because we all literally just want to be able to either get along or solve our problems and get to some place where we can be happy with what the fuck we're dealing with. Unfortunately, that is not what we have in front of us, and it is also not how they choose to behave. I would hope that that would not be the case, and we would learn to be better than this. But it appears to me that everyone wants to go the way of basically saying, ain't my problem, I make my money, it's my business. And I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's good. Obviously for the best reasons why it's not good. If that's how people choose to behave, then we're all going to be judged for these things that we are not responsible for and that we're going to be made guilty of. I do not want some such type person behaving this way and effectively taking on no lesson to learn from, and I would like things to be not this way. And unfortunately things continue to be this way. So it's basically whatever at the end of the day, for the most part. I would like to hope that the behavior will change with enough social pressure. That's my hope, of course. Looking at the possibilities of what is best to grow as either you want to go the angle of saying grow as a community and grow as a group, or simply be able to grow as commentators that are witnessing this event happening in real time and being able to do something about it. It is literally in the best interest of every single person to criticize him, not because, yes, it's my chance to get money, but because the more that we allow a person to go on like this, where they are dedicated to nothing else but the bag, it is literally in the best interest of every single person to help them Or, once it has been demonstrated that they are not willing to accept help, which is, I believe, where we are at, that you now, literally, as the title of the last video said, start whooping feet. As the song goes, I get on. I was about to say, I get in his ass. Pause. I get on the ass. Somebody gotta do it. Because it's not about tone policing at this point. It's literally about holding him to account. Because he says he wants to be a news journalist. In this situation, for what Smash JT has done, and what McDizzle has done, both of them are basically now committing forms of white-collar journalist crime. In Smash JT's case, yellow journalism. He can't be trusted again. Because he's shown a willingness to do what he's doing. He refuses to take accountability for it. He keeps acting as though it's impossible for him to ever consider himself responsible enough and understanding enough to solve basic issues and basic problems and treat them thusly. And anytime someone tries to hold him to account and tell him, look, you just got to just accept that you can't do shit like this. You have to be responsible. Can't do it. Won't do it. It's the worst thing for him. He cannot stand being told no. It's like if you had a friend that was on drugs. He was addicted to something. Crack cocaine or fent or whatever. It is in our best interest to try and see him become healthy, be better, and then return to form. If he does not return to form, then it's our job to start moving things out of the life. Just start snipping things out. Because you can't see it happen and do nothing. If we were seeing this all happen collectively, just like in the case of Grums, Mark Kern doing his grifting, if we all saw it happening, said nothing, did nothing, we're all accountable. Because that's our space. That's our business. That's our hobby that we're allowing people to get involved into and set the conversation for. And if you allow individuals that choose to behave like this set the conversation, they will be able to spread their voice out, and then we will never be able to win. Win in the sense of we will never be able to truly get back to what matters, which is playing video games, buying video games, talking about video games, and being able to share our experiences with those video games, rather than talking about the endless non-traversies that are being profiteered off of by the individuals who are creating them, by causing the dramas to precipitate them, and then rake in the coals from doing it. You can call me an influencer, and call me an e-boy, or call me a streamer of any size, whatever the fuck you want at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, I am a gamer. I cannot abide by someone who is basically trying to talk the talk, but cannot fucking walk the crip walk, but then is throwing up gang signs and sets. Can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know about y'all, but I can't do it. And having covered his work, and seeing him do what he's done, and also criticize him to his face, you just gotta start documenting the shit now. Like, the news segments that I can cut out from VODs, documenting this entire thing. I cannot tell you for the life of me how many times that it just, I wouldn't say boils my blood because, oh, I just get so mad. I cannot tell you how depressing it is that he just can't be held accountable. It is outside of our scope of power to hold him accountable, because he's just that determined to remain to the grift, or whatever you want to say the quote grift is. It's depressing. It truthfully is really depressing. And unfortunately, we can't say that it's not our fault, because at some part of the end of the day, it actually is our fault, technically. 100% it is our fault. Because there's something that we could have done, we knew shit. So, as far as that goes, final solution. If he can't get his shit in line, we have to start cutting people off. Simple as. If they cannot get in line, if they cannot cooperate, if they actively keep doing this level of drama bait, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, if they can't get shit in gear, and they feel that that is their job to go on and act this way, behave this way, because lol, it's just funny. Not only do we have to do better, it's time to go back. It is time that we reset. We have to start doing some holy wars, unironically. It is in our interest that we have to. Because if we don't, shit's not going to change. Shit's not going to change. It's going to remain bad for as much as we could work on it. We're going to remain in the shit for as much as we could do something about it. We're going to remain annoyed for as much as we concern ourselves with it. And we'll have to just look out and know, yep, that's the problem we got to work with. That's what we live here. We live in filth. We live in pig shit now. And I got to tell you, for me, my own concerns, I don't think that is anywhere close to good enough, in my opinion. Just in my opinion. I don't think it's anywhere close to being acceptable. We need to have a little bit more musculature, a little bit more rigor than what we find ourselves currently experiencing. Because if it is so easy for us to just let someone get away with doing shit like this constantly, then there is no culture for us to protect, and there is no saving the hobby. Might as well throw the fucking shit away in the trash. There's no saving it. If we just let somebody do this every single time, throw it away. I don't want it. And that's sad. That's extremely fucking sad. It should not be that easy. But it is. So yeah. Don't like it. Would like to see that it change. If something doesn't change, we just have to accept that this is the way that things are. Hopefully people take notice of it and they say to themselves, I don't want to platform it. I don't want to be near it. I don't want this to happen to people that I know. And that'll be just that. It's sad to see. I dislike it. But my dislike is not the same thing as permissive acceptance of it. So, it is what it is at the end of the day. If for nothing else, I can say that I can understand how he got here, right? Because for somebody like Smash JT, just like it was for Carbutus Rambo, they were completely, I wouldn't say also rans, but completely new people. Completely new figures. Nobody knew where they were from, nobody knew what they were about, they were just literally some guys. But unfortunately, the status of being just literally some guys didn't mean that they were not within the realm of possibility to find themselves here. Here in the shit. Here in the muck. At the mercy of the shit that they decided was more important than the stuff that they find themselves doing concurrently. That I technically made a mistake. I should have sold that. That when it came down to that's unfortunate. When it came down to doing the work and really concerning ourselves with making sure this is the direction that we wanted to go in, they decided that destroying it all, burning it down, was more important than pretty much anything at all. And in that way, I consider that sad. I consider that annoying. I could consider that pathetic. But I don't say that to pick on them. I just know that if I were in their position, I'm certain I could try to do something different. But maybe it's just that bad. Maybe Gamergate really was that bad for us back then. Maybe the reason why people keep becoming this type of content creator or this type of person is that it's literally impossible for a person to want to be about the video games and the material and the content because they just like the work. It's going this way because the money and the fame and the ability to be in front of audiences and everything is literally just that tempting. It is so important that it's the most important thing. And if that's the case, well, damn, it's cooked. We had a good run. It was what it was. We tried our best, boys, but it wasn't enough. Like, I don't know what to say to that, really, honestly. I wouldn't know what to do in this situation. But, you know, it is what it is. But if it's not the case, and the reason why we keep finding ourselves stuck with people like Mark Kern is because it's easier to be a social media influencer where you only have to tweet instead of actually working on that shit, that it brings us to see that the way for us to navigate this particular social water is that we gotta, you know, boots to asses. And if that is the case, then perhaps things will work out for the best. If it's not the case, then this is just the inane ramblings of a person who thinks he's more important than he is. Or a person who just sees a problem in front of them and says, you know what, I can't stand there and say nothing. I would prefer that things not be so black and white. But unfortunately, we keep finding ourselves here. So, shit finna go raw. Shit finna go south. Every time it could go south. We never learn anything. Nothing ever changes. Etc, 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 etc. Money shot. And, like, I'm not one for big vindications of, I know I'm right, I swear I'm right. It's for these reasons that I know that shit's not gonna get better because we don't wanna change for the better. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, I know shit can be better. I know shit can be different. The fact that we keep living here in the shit and nothing is improving in terms of the kinds of voices that people want to talk to and hear from. If they believe that this is the direction that they want to take things in, that's really sad. But you know, I guess that just is what it is. And the journos win. For the most part, anyways. But in my opinion, I would hope that any person who's listening to this and is not mystified with how I landed double blueprint with fucking Brainstorm, that when they look at these events happening and they also tune into streams where I or other content creators are talking about the stuff that's going on here, that they really consider what's, you know, happening when we discuss these things that we find ourselves talking about, these problems that we find ourselves into. That they consider that the reason that this shit is happening, or that why it's important, is because at one point in time in the past, we could rely on each other in a much more rigid way. We could trust, nice money shot, we could trust that a person in question took the time to really consider the positions that they find themselves in. And unfortunately, it seems that in most, if not all cases now, we're finding ourselves in a situation where it is more important to be liked and loved than it is to love your hobby and want to see it improve for the better. And that really hurts my soul when you really consider it. Because as a gamer, I think that some of the basic standards that we should be capable of meeting and reaching and beating is that over time we learn to come together more than we stand off apart from each other. I think it is necessary that we are able to come together and understand that there are more things that make us similar than there are things that make us different. And that when a person goes out of their way to basically poison, that spectrum of things that we could concern ourselves with, that they understand what kind of problems that they're bringing us, that it's not all just about the money and the fame, what it appears that in many cases that is in fact the case. I would like to hope that the parties involved that I'm describing will understand that people are not saying this to take away their fun. People are not saying it to hold them to some unfair standard that they're not willing to hold themselves to. It's a question of what do you care about more. So in the opponent's question of who do you care about more, money or weed, you do not do a grandpa and say weed, because that would truly be the death of all content creation for all of us. That would truly be the death knell that demonstrates that the grand experiment was in fact a joke and a lie. We in fact cannot be able to have the type of work that we believe that we want to look into when it comes down to games journalism, because literally every single time the influencer will want to destroy and break and maim, because it is more important to make money than it is to have fun. But I know that for what it's worth, there are in fact people that do not just accept it blindly. They don't just accept that we are surrounded by such people and that every person should be considered always out for themselves, that they only consider what they can make off of something for themselves, and they don't work with other people because they are only in it for what they can get for themselves. We know, and I know, that there are people who exist better than that. And I know that we find ourselves dealing with what we deal with because of that contingency that is relevant. And that at the end of the day, the reason why the conversation never goes away is in part for most of our problems and most of our faults, because we all do have a part to play in it. We cared a little bit more and a little bit too much. We cared a little bit too much about how funny it was to watch people get involved in shit the way that they did. And it's on us that we gave breath and air to this energy. And it's possible that it's now too late to reclaim it. But we are responsible. We have a hand in this. We had a part to play with how all this went down. Us consumers, we did. Because we didn't say how better we needed to be. When we were there saying we want to have real shit, real games journalists, we want to have people who understand us, who like our stuff, we never said that it was necessary that you actually do the job. We didn't. Not at all. We never said that it was important that you learn how to do your job. We never said that we're not going to let people just simply grift off of things anymore and get away with doing the least amount of work. We never took it on ourselves to check people at the door. We never did. And everything that has happened as a result of us not setting standards and boundaries and guidelines is directly responsible for how we find ourselves at the mercy of the people controlling the conversation as it is. We're responsible for every single Ian Miles Chong. We're responsible for every single Smash JT. We're responsible for every McDizzle, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. We are directly responsible for all of this, because when we had a chance to do something about it, we didn't. We could have said something way, way back in the day. We could have done something way, way back in the day. Because we didn't. We are here now. And we just have to accept that this is what we have to deal with. That this is what we're living in. It sucks. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, you know? It's what it is, what it is, what it is. day what he eat. He's done what he eaten. And the more and less that we have to say and do about it, the better off we are when it comes down to brass tacks. So, if we have to start now treating people like they are anime villains because they refuse to do the hard work and the hard lessons, then so be it. If we have to learn to police and gate who we allow in our hobbies, and we have to vet those people harshly because we just cannot allow for us to get fooled again, so be it. No love lost. No rest, sleep, or wink lost on me. This just is how it is now. It sucks, honestly. I know, in my opinion, it sucks to see that be the case, because you would want to hope that things would turn out better, not worse. But it just so happens to be that in the case of these kinds of problems, it is always going to have some level of bullshit involved with it. I lost value. I should have sold the levers. It's always going to be some level of bullshit where you just have to accept that it is what it is, and it's not going to change because the people in question cannot be asked to change. Because asking them to change is asking them to take responsibility for basically what would be seen as a near civil rights movement. It is on all of us as consumers to be responsible for the type of media and then for the entire environment that we are socially navigating with all of our loved ones watching us. We're responsible for every single the name of it. We're responsible for every single unchecked moment, but we're responsible for every single joke that we tell. So looking back at the Abu Bakr Salim Kenzaria Tales of Zao game, we're responsible for when a broadcaster chooses to insult a man's African religion, and in the moment we don't check them. And I don't mean Anita Sarkeesian, you have to call them all out, but just literally, that's not necessary. There's no need for that. We're responsible in a situation where we allow people to simply grift on the situation because we didn't ask them to have to play the video game. We didn't ask them to have to actually report on something that's relevant to us because we didn't do our job to keep them on their P's or Q's, or because I didn't do my job to keep myself on my P's and Q's. That when it comes down to the shit that we really give a shit about and we could do something about and or with, that we find ourselves in a place where we just accept it. The it in this situation being we just accept that we're just gonna let shit happen. We're just gonna let it rock. Because I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that... That's unfortunate. I don't think that it should easily come down to the fact that we just let shit go and allow for evidence and bullets to be used against us in the future. Because I'm not a hateful person, I'm not a bigot, I'm not a racist. I can be known to tell a spicy joke here and there, and Lord, do I have a mouth like a sailor not on a camera. But at the end of the day, I don't have a single fucking piece of hate in my heart, because I would have to know a person intimately and deeply in order to bring myself to hate them. And I'm bringing myself to the point that I don't hate Smash JT as a person, but as a content creator and as a representation of the worst that we can be, and how easy people seem to fall themselves into doing the easiest evil that they can do. Because, hey, it's all work, it's all content at the end of the day, it's all drama. Why should I be forced to do this and blah, 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 blah. We have these standards because we have to have them. the work waits. And when you let the work wait, if you don't do it, somebody's gonna do it. Most people would claim, and it has been made a standard, that if it is so hard for you to do this job, why don't you do it? And the answer is, I'm already am. But more specifically, to the Gothic's point, shut up and create, shut up or die. Shut up or get out of the way. Do the job. If you can't do the job, someone's going to do the job better than you, and when they take your lunch money and they eat your lunch, don't whine, don't complain, because you could have done something good, but you decided, nah, wasn't worth it. At the end of the day, this is not being said because I'm jealous. It's being said because this shit is common. Ultimately, what will happen, in my opinion, because of how bold and brash and full of bravado it is, we're going to have our conversations back and forth on Twitter. We're all going to be a part of the zeitgeist in the conversation. And something really big is going to happen. Whether it is the lawsuit gets dismissed, the lawsuit gets used against him, and he loses, he wins the lawsuit, you're going to have to demonstrate that you've learned from your problems. You're going to have to demonstrate with changed behavior. And the problem is that since he's not showing changed behavior, you're going to start seeing people's behavior switch up. People are going to start cutting people off. People are going to start saying, no, bro, you can't go on the broadcast. They don't like you there. They don't want you there. They're going to start doing a lot of effort and a lot of work to basically put him in a place where he can't move and he can't do a single fucking thing. He can't breathe. He can't make. And he just keeps spinning that wheel. Slowly and slowly and slowly, furthermore ratcheting himself up. Because it starts with, gut punches here and there. They'll handle it. They're fucking grown adults. They stole my stories, whatever. Then you get to the never-ending homosexuality, transsexuality, and DEI is woke because of black woman shit. And then we start turning into Kim Belair. If you're gonna write a news story, and you're gonna do a news story about people you don't like, and you're gonna talk about the details, and you're gonna give light to the drama, can you be able to keep it relevant? Can you keep it on topic? Can you not flounder and go all over the place, trying to punch them for every little bit of slight you have? And the answer is no, you don't have to go everywhere and do that. You don't have to do that. The best thing that you could do is you could create, you could make, you could thrive. But he keeps pulling and pulling and pulling more and more and more people to do shit that they don't need to fucking do. And I swear on all that is good in my titties, you cannot tell me that it is that hard to play a video game on camera. I do it all the time. I just did it doing this. You cannot tell me that as he's reading these news stories, he can be able to do more than just read the news stories. He can retain the information. He can apply it to another story. He can be able to reference back to something that he talked about before, and not just to self-referentially push his own content on the people to keep them in that zeitgeist cycle where you can see the evolution of how bad it's getting. You can be able to do better, and you can indeed become better than a games journalist. When Alyssa goes to complain and to accuse you of it's only about the money, instead of you immediately saying she only cares about the money, drop the Lars, you tard, you can actually say, that's a good opinion. She's allowed to criticize me. Anyways, back to the shit we were talking, and keep it cash money. Because if we can't keep it cash money, well, whooping feet. That's all I can really say. Whooping feet. Not saying it's going to be me, but I am saying that someone's going to start whooping that feet. It will be a crash out, there will be a drama, and based on how we know that Smash GT reacts, it will be funny. More than likely, he might even go live on live on stream and start coping and seething. Because I can say for myself, since he refuses to just put his content out there, and he refuses to, say his emotions in places that he's not protected in, it is an actual benefit that the same way that he and all of us reacted to David Gaff trying to platform Miss Alyssa McConte and us laughing at him, it'll become important to salt snipe him and just demonstrate how badly he does the job. It'll become necessary to meme on him because the consumers need people that are consistent to make shit for them so that they can be informed. If you want to say that you're a hobbyist, that's game tester turned game journalist, journalism is not just making yellow journalism. and making a muckraker mag. You have to actually play the games. You gotta tell them what they like about the games. You gotta tell them what you like about the games. You gotta tell them what's wrong with them. You gotta tell them about the bugs. You gotta tell them about the fucking game-breaking, PC destroying issues. You have to be willing to do the review. You gotta be willing not only to do the review, but you have to do an actual review that has no frills, no bells, no whistles, just straight good content. And if at the end of the day, you have to be antagonistic, and you have to make fun of everyone that you want to belittle, and you have to do all this shit, at least make edutainment. Be educational and entertaining. Because right now, from what I see and what I keep studying and documenting, Smash AT is right here on the same level as Melissa Mercante, and that's below the fucking floor. That's just my opinion, man. It's just my opinion.